Liquidium. I think people need to look at the lending market as more than just, I need to get 0.5 to then take it and spend it on something else. That's what gets borrowers in trouble, and that's where it's...
Dude, that's what wrecked a lot of people. They just re-leveraged that somewhere else.
It did, and I don't think anything, Liquidium team, I know them well, I don't think they did anything wrong with it, but people start chasing the hype there too, right? The hype of points and the hype of an airdrop. And when they do that, they start making irrational bad decisions. And so it did drive up the lending market. And some of us that were a little dialed in, and you and I had a conversation a couple hours ago with a friend of mine, I told him, hey, this is a little frothy, get out. And you could see how much lending activity was if people were leveraging up. And that never ends well.
Yeah.
But if people want to game it with a strategy and a game theory of saying, hey, I'm going to borrow and hold this because I'm looking at it as a hedge, I think it's a great opportunity.
Okay, so I'm here with Hawk or TheHawk.
Either one's fine.
We're here at Ord Summit, Token 2049, Singapore. The Degen center of the universe, it seems.
Absolutely is. Yes.
So it's very appropriate that you're here because I hang out online and I don't describe myself as a Degen, but I like to follow who is. And sometimes from the outside, it can be very difficult to actually figure out if someone who's an internet person on the other side of the computer, if they actually know what they're talking about. But after about half a year, it seems to me like you actually do know what you're talking about. You've got quite a track record and pedigree of being dialed the fuck in for just about every beat in the Ordinals and Ordinals saga. Where did you get your start? Why are you even in this game in the first place?
Good question. Good to be here with you.
Yeah.
I'll start real quick answering why it's TheHawk instead of Hawk.
Okay.
Because, adding the in front of it almost has like an air of smugness or something. But Hawk.eth was taken when I wanted to do my ENS name.
It all comes down to the ENS, yeah.
And so somebody already had it, so I switched to TheHawk. And from there, it's just been TheHawk. So that was how Hawk was born from that standpoint. It's been a nickname I've had for my whole life. But got started in Bitcoin in 2013. My brother-in-law at the time was dating my little sister. He was like, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? We're sitting on my roof deck in Chicago, and he's like, hey, have you heard of Bitcoin? I'm like, I've heard of it. Haven't really looked into it much. He's like, you should look into it more. So got involved then, got really into Ethereum in 2016. Kind of left my Bitcoin alone. It was a pet rock for a while, right? We had nothing to do until Ordinals came about really with it, other than gamble and spend it on stuff online.
Yeah, it was a fun little gambling arc in 14 and 15, but not much since then.
I mean, I used to play poker with 0.1, 0.25.
Dude, I feel like that's how everyone got their start was online poker, and then.
I wish I was a better poker player.
Yeah,
I'd have more Bitcoin now.
Yeah,
thinking back to how much I burned on it. Oh well.
Many such cases.
Yeah, so I mean, Ordinals, I just heard about it right away, got into it, loved having something to do with Bitcoin, and I'm retired, so I'm a full-time degen. I mean, that's really how I describe myself. I invest in some projects and stuff and have businesses kind of in the side that are passive IRL, but for this, I have nothing else to do. I'm bored when my kids are at school, my wife's busy doing whatever she does. Lock in. Yeah.
But you say you're retired, but you also said, I think, you spend 12, sometimes 18 hours a day locked in watching the ecosystem.
So I've always taken retirement as when you can afford the time to do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And that's where I am. And this is fun. And so that's why I do it. Last summer when Ordinals were dead, I pissed off for the whole summer, didn't really pay much attention. I mean, I kept my ear to the ground a little bit. But, travel, hang out with the family, take the kids to school, whatever. But, I'd be bored if I did nothing.
Yeah.
So it's a labor of love. It's fun. I enjoy DJing.
So let's talk about your how you think about the broader ordinals category. Would you describe yourself as a thesis person, or are you just kind of reacting to the beats in the ecosystem? Do you have a big outlook, or what's your headspace?
I'm a short-term thesis on most things. And I think the hardest part for some people, you mentioned just a lot of conversations we've had about, it's hard to be a full-time DGen and not necessarily being a DGen, but you make sure you try to get to know them. I'm the same way with getting to know devs. I'm not a dev. I know I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to that standpoint. So I try to surround myself with devs to offset my weaknesses. And I think that's how most successful people look at things. Surround yourself with people that offset. So my thesis is always the DGen mind is short, attention span. And it's literally a new casino, one after another. I mean, that's the only way to look at it. Bitcoin will always be the OG. It will always be my, reserve currency of choice, if you will. But that doesn't mean you can't take that BTC and go use it on other stuff to try to accumulate more sats. So that's my only thesis. Accumulate more sats at all costs. If that means playing on, I don't want to speak negatively of them, but if that means playing on XYZ, side chain or EVM,
I do
whatever.
this too. This is Bitcoin Season 2, where we embrace the reality that other blockchains exist. Yeah.
I mean, you have to. I mean, I guess you don't have to. You can sit there with your, pet rock or just only ordinals, only runes. I mean, the thesis is that ordinals will come back. I try to have as best I can of a game plan or what I think will happen. But at the end of the day, DGens wanting to gamble on stuff is what will drive narratives in the short term. And you have to react to those, or at least be with it enough to see them as they're starting to come. I mean, Fractal was pretty telegraphed. It was going to do pretty well. It's had a great week.
This is actually one of the questions I was wanting to ask, which is in the past year, if I'm putting you on the spot to kind of remember what happened the past year, it's been a chaotic year.
Yep.
What were some of the easily telegraphed plays, and why?
Specifically related to Bitcoin?
In just the Bitcoin or ordinals adjacent
runes,
world.
etc. So I'd start with the most obvious, and I've been a little critical of it, and I don't mean to be critical. I mean to be realistic. Runes was the most telegraphed mint sell early play there's been. I had tweeted something about how I thought Runes might not succeed, a week before it launched. And I'm not saying it hasn't succeeded. I'm not saying it's a failure.
But shit's down.
It's down. People's bags are down for the most part. And, I didn't certainly sell as much as I should have in retrospect. But it was a good week. If you stayed up or whatever time zone you're in and minted and etched a bunch of stuff and sold, then it was great. But, it was a pretty telegraphed play in one of my close circles of 5 guys. We knew it was going to be hype. It was going to have a bang, and then it was going to fizzle out. Now, is it going to come back? I think it can. I think certain ones can when they have a narrative. But nobody's going to buy random XYZ rune. And that's nothing against rune. Think about how many meme coins are launched every day on Solana or Ethereum. There's just a lot of garbage. And you got to sift through that garbage and find the good stuff. So that would be one. Countless ordinals projects, PFP stuff. There's several from time to time. You can just tell when the hype is real versus botted accounts and Discords where they're doing rumbles and stupid stuff to try to farm engagement. If a project has to do that to get people in their Discord, it'll 2 or 3x right after mint, but if you hold that for more than 2 days, you're going to be down.
This is a flipping game. What's something which wasn't telegraphed, where you say in the past year, where you've been more reactive to that play?
You're right. Trying to think of the last year is a blur.
It's kind of a blur.
I will say, just within the last week, the Cat 20 stuff on Fractal came out of nowhere. At least to me. If I wasn't dialed in, then that's on me. But it definitely came out of nowhere. Little protocol had launched a token called Flux.
Yeah,
as
you
the
were
first
on the
fungible-
Flux like right out the gate.
And that was reacting too. I mean,
Yeah.
I know Pinot, but I didn't know what he was doing with it. And it's the same thing with Cat, though. You know, see something come out, it has a narrative. To me, OpCat is one of the strongest narratives for Fractal, besides Quick Blocks. And so seeing that launch, that's when it was, okay, as a degen and not a dev, not knowing what the hell I'm doing in a lot of cases, it's like, all right, how do I figure out how to get some Cat? So that's certainly the most recent one. I mean, there's been several projects. I faded Node Monks. In retrospect, it was inevitable, and obviously they're down bad compared to the peak, but they're still sitting at what, a 3 or 4x at least of
mint. Yeah,
mint.
it's like, I think a lot of people, I mean, we look at the past 6 months of these charts, and yeah, it's down. The blue chips are down bad too, but there's still a lot of stuff which is up from mint still.
And that strengthens the argument, don't FOMO into stuff. I mean, that's what gets people burnt. You know, people either that don't normally degen, that feel the FOMO, they see everyone talking about it. By the time you see everybody talking about it, don't buy. It's just, if you think the community's great and you want to be part of it, just wait a week, set a reminder, then buy when they're down a little bit to be part of that community. And I've done that in plenty of cases because I like the community. I just want to wait to, buy in for less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how much people chase the FOMO, and I feel bad because you're right. I mean, if you look at Dog, you look at Arsic, you look at Node Monks, Puppets, all of them are up. Either they were free airdrops or cheap mints or whatever, but it's the people that FOMO in at ungodly prices, and they're the ones that end up paying
Which is interesting because, like, I don't know if you've looked at them of the metrics of default of like loan defaults on Liquidium.
Yep.
And this is a really interesting mechanic or dynamic to watch on Bitcoin. And I think it's underappreciated, the Ordinals lending market. I think the Ordinals lending market is really underappreciated as a sign of ecosystem health and where the ecosystem is.
Yep.
You've gamed the lending markets a bit, which is pretty interesting. Can you where you're comfortable? Talk me through some of the interesting things you've seen.
I mean, I'm comfortable talking about anything,
Yeah.
and I'm comfortable gaming anything.
Yeah.
To be blunt, I mean, if there is a loophole, if there's a strategy, I mean, we are in a PvP world. Now, I proudly say I will never scam anyone. I mean, that's just Midwest boy. I have ethics.
We're too nice in the Midwest. Yeah.
But that being said, my goal is to make money, just like most of our goals here. So if you can, manipulate a loophole a little bit, or you're in an equally relatable, counterparty risk on something, and the other counterparty is willing to do something dumb, I'm not going to say no to that necessarily. So yeah, I mean, Liquidium's a great protocol. I think they've done a great job. I think they have helped a lot with the ecosystem, but you're right. A lot of people have defaulted. I've defaulted on several loans on purpose.
Talk me through that, yeah. Why do you intentionally default on a loan?
I say on purpose because a loan is basically a call option sometimes for a small amount of money, and it's an easy risk-reward or asymmetric risk scenario. So if my background even before this, before crypto, is I've been stock trading since I was 12. I met a stockbroker when I was really young at an event my parents were at, and I fell in love. I used to sit in front of CNBC in the summers and stuff. So options and all that stuff. So I look at everything like a call option. If you have a collection that's trading at, let's say, 0.8, and you think it's had a huge run, you think there's a lot of hype, you own some of it, you're up big because you had it at 0.1 or 0.2 or whatever, so you're deep in the money. If somebody's willing to loan you a week or 2 week loan on Liquidium at 0.6, let's say, which is a 75% LTV, which most of the collections I've seen were always kind of between 0.65 and 0.8, give or take, seem to be about the happy medium. So if it's at a 0.75 LTV and you can get 0.6 for someone, basically what that is a 2 week insurance policy for you, or a 2 week call option. So to take the loan, you might spend 0.01 in interest maybe, Well, if you bought it at 0.1, it's at 0.8, so you're at least 0.7 in the money, and you're saying I'm going to take a 0.6 loan, spend 0.01, so now my cost basis goes from 0.1 to 0.11, and I am guaranteed 0.6 for the next 2 weeks. And so I get the best of both worlds. The lender really gets screwed in that situation, because if it goes to 1 or 1.5, I pay back my loan and I'm done with it. If it goes to 0.4, in the case of node monks, you just default on the loan, and now I got 0.6.
I've heard a lot of strategies around this, which always favor the lender, which is like, you could just, it's free yield into Bitcoin. I'm like, no. Sometimes you have to take the bag.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to buy the bag at lower than you lend against it for, and yeah.
So there was actually a good friend of mine just walked by as we were sitting here, and I, without saying names and stuff, I think I actually defaulted on a loan to him.
You said it was a PvP world.
I mean, he's a good friend. We've helped each other a lot, but I think he was lending while I was borrowing on one collection.
That's one of the funny, elements that you don't see in like traditional markets, where sometimes you know the PFP of the other person. You're like, I'm pretty sure that's your puppet, and I'm sorry, it's now definitely your puppet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Just to kind of recap on what you were asking about Liquidium, I think people need to look at the lending market as more than just, I need to get 0.5 to then take it and spend it on something else. That's what gets borrowers in trouble, and that's where it's...
Dude, that's what wrecked a lot of people. They just re-leveraged that somewhere else.
It did, and I don't think anything, Liquidium team, I know them well, I don't think they did anything wrong with it, but people start chasing the hype there too, right? The hype of points and the hype of an airdrop. And when they do that, they start making irrational bad decisions. And so it did drive up the lending market. And some of us that were a little dialed in, and you and I had a conversation a couple hours ago with a friend of mine, I told him, hey, this is a little frothy, get out. And you could see how much lending activity was that people were leveraging up. And that never ends well.
Yeah.
But if people want to game it with a strategy and a game theory of saying, hey, I'm going to borrow and hold this because I'm looking at it as a hedge, I think it's a great opportunity.
Fascinating back and forth on the lending idea. What is your current thought process around just tokens on Bitcoin? Like, are these good plays at all? I mean, some of them are, but do you think the next year? Here's the question. Do you think the next year is going to be one of major token narratives on Bitcoin?
Individual tokens, not protocols, you're saying?
That's a good question. I don't actually know which one I'm asking.
I guess I'll try to address both. I mean, I think tokens are, first of all, during your panel, there's a really good metaphor to Wildcat stuff back in the 1800s. I always liken it to casinos or banks because it's just a little bit of pertinent for most people. When people issue a token or they start a new protocol, it's really just their competitive way to try to get a piece of the pie. And, no matter what new protocol is launching, it's just the new casino in Vegas at the end of the block. And then someone else is going to build another one. Someone else is going to build another one. And sure, a lot of people dig their heels in and say, oh, it's dumb. I don't want to do this. It's just a meme shitcoin. Well, why are there thousands of banks in the United States? There could just be one, right?
Yeah,
we could just have the Bitcoin of banks, whether it's Chase or Bank of America, whatever. But competition happens, and it breeds innovation sometimes. And every new protocol or chain, I hope, adds value a little bit, maybe either back to Bitcoin or to other stuff. So as far as tokens, I think there's going to be another 10,000 garbage tokens. I think of those, you can probably make money on 10% of them if you're willing to flip them quickly. I think you can also lose a lot of money if you FOMO chase stuff. So yeah, new protocols will come. I know a few launching soon. I'm actually pretty excited about Arch Network.
I just interviewed Matt here earlier. Yeah. Great interview. Actually, on the subject of like the Arch type products, do you think those coincide, like the fractal effect? Yep. Fractal launches, something which is unanticipated, like the token meta heats up on these. Do you think the launch of these new products, indexers, off-chain, whatever, do you think those are a mechanism of driving future speculative events?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely they are. I think stablecoin adoption will be a huge one too. I think it will breed DeFi in a much larger scale in Bitcoin, whether it's on the true L1 or if it is a sidechain or roll up or L2 or however it's accomplished. That's where some of that will get over my head in the mechanics of it. But at the end of the day, if people can start using LSD type products in Bitcoin, if they can start stabling up in a more real manner, then I think it's just going to breed more liquidity, which then has more token go up type events, whether it's on actual tokens or ordinals and non-fungibles. But I think people just miss and forget token go up, token go down.
Yeah.
And if you want to gamble, I do, I enjoy it. I obviously have some sort of gambling addiction problem.
I think we all do if we're still here after this much. Yeah.
I mean, as long as you know that you're gambling, then that's fine. But there are very few tokens that will ever trend up and to the right. I think Bitcoin's one of them. That's why that's my reserve currency of choice. So it's like if you're at the, if you go to Vegas, if you put money down on the table and that's the money you're putting down on the table and you're fine with it, great. If you win and you're hot and you're up, quit while you're ahead. Do that on a token as well. There's no shame in being up. Now, if you're lying to people or stuff, that's different. But if you buy a token and it goes up, take your profit. Take your initials out, whatever. Sure, it's a...
How do you think about profit taking in general? Do you
early and often?
Early and often, and you're obviously seasoned. If you come from the world of stock trading, did you learn or practice like this discipline of profit taking then?
Yep.
And does it still require the same discipline today to profit take as it used to perhaps when you were starting out?
100% does. I do as I say, not as I do sometimes. I mean, it's always hard. I mean, the psychological effect, and that's why markets are so tough and chew most people up, is because it's all psychological, not PvP, but PvMe.
Yeah.
And you have to look in the mirror and say, no, sell, dummy.
Yeah.
So that's why I try to make it rules-based. I try to have certain metrics and percentages that when I hit something, if I hit a 30% in minutes, I don't care if it's in the stock market or if it's in crypto, I am selling. I mean, those are returns that people work 5 years to try to make in TradFi. And so, sure, it might go up more. Everything will go up more potentially at some point. But yeah, I'm a 2x, pull initials out kind of guy. You live to fight another day. You still enjoy a free trade. Having a free trade, kind of like the same concept as the Liquidium loans. If you have a free trade with defined risk, and the upside is limitless, I don't understand why people would not want to do that. But then again, I've also sold stuff too early and watched friends, bag go, I'm up 5 figures and happy, and then all of a sudden I see they're up 6 figures and then 7, and then I check in a month later and they're back down to 5.
Yeah.
Because they never sold. So it's a happy medium. But
when if you spent time in both worlds of like traditional stock trading and crypto, do the people you talk to in the stock trading world, do they find our world insane?
They do. Yeah, the 24/7 nature of it. I have a couple good friends that are full-time day traders. Have been successful at it. I'm still in a couple small chats that are mostly focused on TradFi stuff, and a few of them own Bitcoin or dabble. But I'm like, I did this play at 9 o'clock on a Friday night and sold it at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning and made X amount. And they're like, you're trading then? Like, it's bad enough from 9:30 to 4 every day. So yeah, it's a different world. I mean, it's you have to be the most degen of degens to want to hyperactive trade crypto.
I feel it's kind of some mental illness, and after a long enough time in the space, even I, as an active trader, I've been here many years, and sometimes I wonder if I have Stockholm syndrome. Like I just enjoy the game of it more than I do anything else. I'll switch gears a bit. You put me on to TravelSwap. were kind of the guy, I think, who were saying you can buy hotels and stuff and flights with crypto on this travel swap thing. I mean, heck, part of the reason I'm here in Singapore is because like, oh, I can buy a place in Amsterdam for later in the trip with Bitcoin. I'm in. I've seen a lot of people try to do this before. I don't know. You want to talk about what travel swap is? Because I think it's a pretty cool product.
I mean, it's amazing to be able to use your magic internet money on tangible, real things. And that's what's funny about tokens is, you think, oh, it's token go up, token go down. That's the only utility. Maybe some Ponzi-nomics with something, but it is rare to have, other than some shopping portal type stuff where you can pay in Bitcoin for a tangible product. It's normally not crypto native. And it's not a very elegant solution. Often you have to copy paste addresses and send certain amounts, and if the price fluctuates in 5 minutes, you're out of luck. And so I met Eric, the founder of TravelSwap, a long time ago. I think I was probably the first check written to him. I believe heavily in what he's doing. I'm also a huge travel, enthusiast. And so when he talked to me originally about tokenizing both hotel stays and Airbnbs so that you can trade them on the aftermarket, started getting exciting, and then we started looking at how do you start ramping up revenue. And the key was, how do you actually build a crypto platform with real revenue?
Yeah.
Because a lot of them just don't have it.
Yeah, outside of an exchange, what other business model is there?
Yeah. And I mean, a few of the lending protocols and stuff can make some fees, but it is pretty rare. So yeah, I mean, he worked his ass off. It's grown a hell of a lot in the last year or so. It's hotels just right now, partnered with Expedia and Gemini. I mean, he's literally, I still get people that are like, oh, it's a Ponzi. I'm going to book a hotel and show up and it's not really going to be there.
That was what I think. Like, I've heard of so many of these schemes, and then looking in, I was like, oh, this is legit. Where was this in 2017 or like the last bull market peak? Because when shit's up, I'm very bad at selling. I'm much better at increasing my expenditure, my luxury expenditure.
Yep.
So that's kind of my philosophy here.
I mean, it's where it was. It's funny. There's one other competitor for the most part, but I think what it is people don't realize, and part of what's helped Eric so much is I'm partners with him in another venture that actually gave him enough business history to be able to do this. You can't just go to Expedia and say, hey, let me API into your platform and offer your whole book of rooms because I'm a crypto bro and I want to work with you.
It's got red flags all over it. Yeah.
You have to have business revenue. You have to have multiple years of showing that you run a legitimate business. And that's what helped TravelSwap really get in and partner with them. And people don't realize, like, literally, if you go on Expedia and you go on TravelSwap, it is the same price or sometimes cheaper on TravelSwap.
Because people are like, the value is like fluctuating so much with it.
Yeah, but I mean, crypto native devs, crypto native teams. So, the UI, while it's not perfect, it's more of a elegant, what you'd expect. You check out like you buy an NFT or an Ordinal or swap on Uniswap. You see what you need, you hit select, it pops up your wallet, you can pay in Bitcoin or other currencies, and you just hit submit. There's no fussing around. So yeah, I mean, I love it. Huge enjoyer of it. I wish. I'll just say more to come soon. Even besides the hotels.
Cool. Time it with the bull market.
Yep.
Now the Novu rich can go spend their money on hotels. I guess, what are your final thoughts of the state of the Ordinals ecosystem? We are facing liquidity fragmentation. We're facing narrative. The narrative of Ordinals is kind of tired right now. We're months into a bear market. What brings us back? What's there to be bullish about?
So I will two-part answer that, kind of taking both sides of the coin. One, I will say there's not a lot to be bullish about right now. Ordinals, runes, this is going to be a hot take that people disagree with, but it had 2 hype cycles already. Ordinals, at least. That's rare to get a third. A lot don't even get a second. So I truly think Liquidium and that speculating and getting levering up helped fuel the second, not to mention also running into runes launching. So a big part of me says there will not be a third cycle.
This is I like a good spicy taste.
Now, my bags will disagree with that. I still have plenty of, I rock a PFB as an ordinal.
Same, yeah.
I have plenty of them. So it's not me fudding. It's not me saying, I hope it goes down. I certainly want them to come back. I still think there's, like I said earlier, tokens, there's still flashes in the pan. I mean, there's been several launches lately that have done very well. I think there's another one this week that's going to do really well. But then to take the other side of what is the bullish case, I think it's devs that have still been deving for the last year. And what I mean by that is there is still a huge amount of attention and effort going into making programmability, making DeFi, making all kinds of enhancements to Bitcoin and to L2s, if you will. There's 100 of them. There'll be 100 more. 99% will fail. 1 or 2 or 3 will get it right. And that's what's going to launch the bullishness. Whether it's a stable coin, whether it's a better wrapping mechanism that's in a more trustless state, something that a dev has been working on in the dark for the last 6 months is going to catch on, and that will probably be what ignites another run.
I like this. That's a realistic approach. I would expect nothing more than one of my favorite traders. Hawk, it's been a pleasure chatting with you online and now in person. So thanks.
Pleasure.
See you back on the Discord.
Sounds good.